Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing another top 5 video. So I'm really excited for this one, especially after the last one. You guys loved the last one, and I'm really excited to do this one for you guys. And we're actually going to be doing something in reverse this time. We're actually going to be talking about 5 cards that should be banned on the next ban list, which I'm excited to talk about in this one, because on the last video, we actually talked about 5 cards that could go from banned to limited and nothing would change in Yu-Gi-Oh! But this time, we're going to be talking about 5 cards that actually need to be banned on the next ban list, which is going to be a really interesting topic. And if you guys have any cards that you think should actually be banned, comment down below and tell me what you think they are as well, because I think I have a really interested, well-rounded list for you guys of what I personally think needs to be hit on the very next ban list. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out that Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name in the description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. And we're going to get straight on into the list now, guys. Okay guys, so for number 5, we're actually going to be talking about a card that I personally think could last a little bit longer without going on the ban list, but I really think it's going to be an interesting card going into the future because it's only going to take 1 or 2 cards to really break this card, and it's actually going to be Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. If you guys are unfamiliar with what this card does, it's actually a very interesting card that I think can be used for a lot of different loops, which is why I think this card actually needs to be banned. So what this card does is you can equip this card to any warrior type monster and increase the attack of that monster by 300 points. Well, that doesn't sound like great of an effect, and it's really not, to be honest, because it locks itself into warrior monsters and it only increases them by 300 attack. But here's where it gets interesting. You can also add this card back to your hand during your main phase by removing 2 warriors from your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is a really powerful effect in my opinion, because with cards like Isolde running around, you can pretty much use this card to pay for costs in your deck, where the Isolde can send it to the graveyard, and when Isolde sends it to the graveyard, you can banish any 2 warriors that you need to from the graveyard, especially in decks like Dark Warrior and Infernoble Knights. Infernoble Knights showed it the best at how this deck can just loop that card over and over again. And with Nightmares were running around all over the place. I remember when Orcus was running around. I actually played that in my Orcus deck, and it was really crazy because I could pay for my costs for all of my Orcus cards in my Dark Warrior Orcus deck when that deck was around before they banned Harpor. One of these days you'll be back. But that card was really, really busted in that deck, and I really feel like that's a card that needed to be banned at that time. But for now, I don't feel like it super needs to be banned, but in the future, it's just going to take 1 card for it to be broken all over again, for it actually to be needed to be banned all over again. So for number 4, guys, we're actually going to be talking about a card that got hit on the ban list last time, but wasn't outright banned. It actually went to 1 and didn't really change anything with it going to 1, in my personal opinion. And it's actually kind of a tie for 2 cards on this particular spot. So the first card I think that they could outright ban that went to 1 is actually going to be Cyber Angel Benten. So Cyber Angel Benten is a very powerful card because it's not a once per turn. If you guys are unfamiliar with what that card does, let's go over that really quickly. So what this card does actually is you can ritual summon this card with a Machine Angel ritual, and if this card destroys a monster in battle and sends it to the graveyard, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's defense in the graveyard. And if this card is tributed, you can add 1 light fairy monster from your deck to your hand. So that's an extremely powerful effect because it's not once per turn. And with cards like Drytron, just using a very small Megalith engine in the actual Drytron deck, you can loop through your copy of Benten between 3 to 4 times per turn with ease. It is absolutely insane how crazy it is that you can just instantly loop that card over and over and over again. But the real problem card is actually Cyber Angel Benten, but there's a card that I could see them actually hitting instead of Benten on the next list that is tied for number 4, and that is actually Vanity's Ruler. So Vanity's Ruler is a very powerful card that all it basically does is says that your opponent cannot special summon monsters. That's all the card says it is. And it's a really powerful card that, in my opinion, is the main reason that Benten is actually crazy. I played it in my Necros before. I have played it in my Drytrons before. I've even played it in Blue Eyes Chaos Max before because it allows me to stop my opponent from special summoning while I get none of the backtrack abilities where I am not getting to not special summon. Where Vanity's Fiend makes it so nobody can special summon at all, Vanity's Ruler only makes it so my opponent can't special summon, which really is a bad effect in theory because it is a one-sided lockdown. So I really think one of the two of those is going to go on the very next ban list, but I personally think it should be Benten because at that point you really wouldn't have as many ways to search Vanity's Ruler, and without Benten, Vanity's Ruler would fall to the wayside all over again. So for number 3, guys, we actually have 3 cards tied for this spot, ironically, but it's actually going to be Predaplant Verte Anaconda, Red Eyes Fusion, and Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. You guys knew it was going to be on here, but we're actually going to be talking about number 1 and number 2. What could be worse than that in just a minute? But these 3 cards are absolutely broken. One of the 3 of them is going to have to go on the very next ban list. It's been a year, and all 3 of them have been running rampant. And decks like Eldritch and Zodiac and all sorts of stuff are even picking them up. Virtual World are picking them up to actually make them absolutely crazy. So let's go into each individual card, starting with Predaplant Verte Anaconda. So at the cheap cost of 2,000 life points, you can send any fusion spell that you need to from your deck to the graveyard and copy that effect, where Red Eyes Fusion comes in. Red Eyes Fusion is crazy because you can activate this card by not being able to normal summon or special summon for the rest of the turn, but you can still set. However, it does let you send fusion materials from the deck to the graveyard, kind of like Shadow Fusion a little bit, but on diesel fuel, essentially. But it really wasn't a busted card until Red Eyes Dark Dragoon came out. So Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is a very powerful card, and this is the card that's probably out of the 3 gonna be the one that gets banned. But what that card actually does is insane. It can't be destroyed by card effects, and neither player can target it as well, which is insane. And it also has the ability that you can target 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field if you put 2 vanilla monsters into it, and when you destroy them, your opponent takes damage equal to the monster's original attack. Which, if your opponent has 2 4,000 attack point monsters on the field, it's an instant OTK, which isn't usually likely, but if you're playing against a deck like Blue Eyes, for example, because it's the rival of Red Eyes, and you pop 2 Blue Eyes monsters, they take 6,000 damage, and then you can attack with the 3,000, inflicting over 9,000 damage against your opponent, which is just busted on its own. And if that wasn't bad enough for this custom create a card winner that this thing is, it actually gets worse. It's an Omni Negate that you can negate any single card during your either player's turn by discarding 1 card from your hand. At the measly cost of a 1-for-1, you can negate anything that you want to, which is absolutely crazy. And if that wasn't bad enough, it gains 1,000 attack. Like, I don't know how much more you could have given this card in the text box, but like, I think they ran out of room for the effects, and I think that's the only thing that really stopped them. But it's an insanely good card with the fusion between Yugi's Ace Monster and Joey's Ace Monster, which it usually takes a Dark Magician and a Red Eyes Black Dragon to be able to fusion someone into this card. And it's basically Dark Paladin on diesel fuel, which is absolutely insane. But this card, I think, is going to be out of the 3, the actual one that's going to be banned on the next list, because that's what they actually did in the OCG to handle the problem, was they actually banned Red Eyes Dark Dragoon in the OCG, which handled the entire problem, which I think is what's going to happen here in the TCG. So for number 2, guys, I think I'm going to be picking a card that's going to be really interesting for you guys, and it's actually going to be Mystic Mine, because this card is just, to me, it should have never been created. The card actually is really busted, and we're going to go over what this card does for you guys. What this card does is if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or declare attacks at all, which takes out a bunch of fundamental characteristics of the game and turns off the ability to interact with your opponent, which to me is just really bad. Fundamental floodgates like this card or Vanity's Emptiness and stuff like that, Kaiser Coliseum, that turn off fundamental mechanics in the game are just not healthy for this particular game. It also has the ability that if you control more monsters than your opponent does, you cannot activate monster effects or declare its attacks, and then once returned during the end phase, if both players control the same number of monsters, you destroy this card, which is the only saving grace of Mystic Mine, is that basically the way that you play this card is you don't play at all, essentially. You basically stall out your opponent with back row until you draw the necessary combo pieces that you need in order to be able to actually go off in full combo. And I feel like this card is really it's good and bad all at once, because what it does for the game is it slows it down where you're not deciding the victor or the loser within 3 turns like the average game of Yu-Gi-Oh! However, it is making the games extremely long, where we do have 45-minute time limits when we go into tournament play, which to me is really bad. Where cards like Kaiser Coliseum just made it so your opponent couldn't control any more cards that you could, was a really powerful card, or any more monsters than you could. If, for example, if I had 1 monster, you could only control 1 monster. If I had 2 monsters, then you could only control 2 monsters, up to 2 monsters, which is a very powerful effect, but that card actually got banned, where cards like Mystic Mine are still running around, where I really feel like Mystic Mine has been overdue for being banned. What could possibly be worse than Mystic Mine, Dragoons, Cyber Angel Benten, and even Divine Sword Phoenix Blade? Well, you're about to find out for number 1. So here we go, guys. Number 1 on my list of cards that actually needs to be banned on the next ban list is Guard Dragon LP. So Guard Dragon LP is an extremely powerful card that I feel like is enabling the entire deck for Guard Dragons or Dragon Link to be able to even thrive at all. I feel like that deck is well overdue being hit on the ban list, because it's been running around for about a year to a year and a half, in my opinion. I think it's been about a year and a half that deck has actually been running around. It's an extremely powerful card that enables a full Guard Dragon combo. I feel like it's kind of like Nightmare Mermaid, that we all know it's going to get hit eventually, but we're just kind of waiting and seeing, like, when you gonna go? When you gonna go? But it's kind of one of those moments. I really feel like that card needs to be hit on list. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what that card does, what it actually does is it takes 1 level 4 dragon monster to actually make this 1 link monster. And it has the ability that you can't special summon monsters except for dragon monsters. Big deal. We're playing Dragon Link. All we're playing is dragon, except maybe a Dragoons, of course. And it has the ability that during your main phase, you can special summon 1 dragon monster from your hand or deck, which is the powerful effect. If it was just hand, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but special summoning from deck is just insane, because they had to errata the copy of Red Eyes Darkness Metal because of this card, being able to loop it with LP and Pisty. And it has the ability also that you can special summon a dragon monster in your hand or deck to a zone that 2 link monsters point to, and you can only use the effects of Guard Dragon LP once per turn, and you can only special summon Guard Dragon LPs once per turn. You only play 1 copy of it. You're only going to use it once per turn. But if you hit that 1 key combo piece in the entire deck, then to me, I feel like the entire Dragon Link Guard Dragon deck would fall apart, in my personal opinion. I feel like it is an overdue hit that I felt like on the last ban list they were actually going to do it, but they kind of surprised me with Union Kicker, and I feel like they might surprise me by actually going after Pisty on the next list, but who actually knows? We won't find out until the next list, which is a little ways away, but I wanted to go ahead and discuss as the format is still shaping up and what we're getting with remote duels going on and people playing on WiGo Pro and Dueling Book. I really feel like it's an interesting concept to go ahead and talk about it now and then see in a month or 2 where it actually forms up and the meta shapes up. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out that Patreon down in the description below and tell me what your 5 cards are that you think should actually be banned on the next ban list, and definitely give me some ideas for another top 5 video, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys!